It's fascinating, isn't it? How the media still can't get this story right. And I don't seem to understand why. Maybe it's just because they're really awful. Maybe that's it. I made a video a couple days ago. I don't think it was yesterday. I think it was the day before yesterday, where people were alleging that Nathan Phillips, the guy in, the Native American guy, was falsely claiming he was a Vietnam veteran. I went through the story, basically right around around the time people were tweeting about it, saying, well, he's only said Vietnam times or Vietnam era. People have been questioning this. Some people said it was like weasel words, but more importantly, all of these media outlets were falsely reporting that he was a Vietnam veteran. Now, we have a story from yesterday from Dan Lamoth. He has since tweeted the correction, but not in this story. And I'm using Washington Post on purpose because on the 23rd, they came out with a story saying he referred to himself as a Vietnam Times veteran. The headline says, a group representing Nathan Phillips wrongly said he served in Vietnam, then came the accusations. There's no evidence that he's ever claimed to have served in Vietnam, a representative said. Why are you reporting this? Why was this reported yesterday at 3:11 p.m. when... Okay, here's what we have. This is from 11 p.m. yesterday, okay? Now, I'm not going to fault the Washington Post for not including this in their initial reporting because it wasn't entirely wrong. It was very similar to what I said. But a day afterwards, people... this individual is Phil Kerpen. Anyway, look, the reason I bring up Washington Post is because it's still live. There's no update on the page, even though the author of the article has tweeted out this exact video where we now have proof of Nathan Phillips lying about having served. And it's actually really interesting because apparently he says he was in theater. Like, literally saying he's trying to imply here that he was in combat. Why? Why, Washington Post, have you not updated this? More importantly, Snopes. Famed fact-checking site has an article that says unproven in reference to whether or not he claimed to be in Vietnam. They said it is false. He was never in Vietnam, but we don't have any evidence to say he actually ever said he was. So why is it that random Twitter users are the ones who are pulling up this information? What is the job of a journalist at this point? No, seriously. Is the job of a journalist... And I'm not trying to be a dick, but Dan Lamoth wrote a story that I essentially wrote 2 days before this, when people were questioning whether or not Nathan Phillips was a vet. What is the role of a journalist? Well, they should be doing digging. They should be doing background checks. They should be digging through this guy's history. They don't. They don't. And now what do we have? The Washington Post publishing a story a couple days after the news was already broken by people on Twitter. And a day, okay, people on Twitter were talking about this. I made a video about that a day later. I was late. And it was mostly just a commentary on whether or not he was a Vietnam vet because, first of all, I'll say this. The videos you watch on this channel are not hardcore journalism. It's my commentary and criticism and things like that. My main channel is where I actually put more of the research, analysis, and breakdown stuff. So I was simply saying, hey, isn't it interesting that a lot of people are questioning this guy? I don't know a whole lot about it. This is my commentary on where we're at so far. Not too dissimilar to what the Washington Post did a couple days later. Why couldn't the Washington Post update this story once they had the facts? Well, we have the facts. Let's watch. Let's watch. Let's play this loud and clear.
I'm a Vietnam vet. I served in the Marine Corps 72 to 76. I got discharged May 5th, 1976. I got honorable discharge, and one of the boxes in there, it shows if he was peacetime or what my box says is that I was in theater.
Well, I don't know what he means by in theater, but I think when he contrasts it with peacetime, he's literally saying that he was a Vietnam vet who served in the Marine Corps. And on the boxes it shows he was in theater. Now, a lot of people are alleging, based on a DD-214, which I'm told is his discharge papers, that he went AWOL either 2 or 3 times. Nick Monroe tweeted that it was 3. Others said it was twice. Maybe there was a repeat document. I don't know. But also that he was a refrigerator repairman who was a Marine Corps reservist. He also has claimed he was a recon ranger. I can't remember where that came from. I believe that to be true. Could be wrong. But that's what another thing a lot of people are saying. So basically, this dude has lied left and right. So here's what's interesting. The thread starts with Phil Kerpen talking about He said from his Facebook page, and he posts this image, Native Youth Alliance, as a medallion says Vietnam War veteran. I think it's absolutely fair to say that even before, this is on the dude's Facebook page from November 2018. Did no one in, why did no journalists dig this up? Now look, I'm not doing a main report to question the validity of his claims. This is my commentary channel. My main channel has been more about the bigger picture. But to all the journalists who claimed he was literally a Vietnam War vet, Washington Post had to issue a retraction. A bunch of other outlets issued retractions. Why didn't you check in the first place? Like, seriously, we're in an era now where the journalists, air quotes, are simply writing stories that are commentary on people's tweets. I kid you not. Someone tweeted he was a Vietnam veteran. They wrote he was. Are you kidding me? No fact checking. I was at Politicon, and there was a big panel of progressives. The only conservative was roaming millennial. But I asked, none of these news outlets have fact checkers, so why should I believe anything they say? And the response from many of these people, which include Media Matters and David Pakman, among other people, was, well, no one trusts fact checkers anyway, so why should we bother? Well, Snopes hasn't issued a correction on this. Snopes is unproven. Did no one at Snopes actually do a background check on this? The answer is no, they didn't. Why should I trust a fact checker like Snopes when they literally don't even check facts? We need real fact checkers. I'll tell you what. This man, Phil Kerpen, he tweeted that out 14 hours ago. So let's pull up the actual tweet and get the timestamp on it. 8:13 p.m. yesterday. So admittedly, this is after the Washington Post, and that's fair. I'm not ultimately trying to impugn the honor of Dan Lamothe and the Washington Post. I'm just trying to point out that you think by now they would have issued another correction, and why is it that they didn't do this legwork first? Why did the author who was challenging the validity of the Vietnam War veteran claim not go to this dude's Facebook page and see that he has repeatedly tried to insinuate that he was a Vietnam veteran? Look, he's got this, Warriors Medal of Valor from the Native American nations. And he's posting things. Look, at the very least, it looks like Nathan Phillips was trying to manipulate people into believing he was a Vietnam veteran with weasel statements, right? Showing a medallion. Well, maybe someone gave it to him. It was clearly not his. Showing a certificate. So that people would be like, wow, he really is. They'll really believe it. And then he says, here's the post with the Vietnam War veteran medallion in context posted to his page on Veterans Day, going live talking about veterans. And then he did. He shows these other clips, and then there you have it. Little siren lights. Nathan Phillips said he was a Vietnam veteran who was in theater. Now, Phil Kerpen is a syndicated columnist. He's an IFC chairman. Mets fan, lives in D.C. I don't know if he's a columnist that qualifies him in the same capacity as these journalists. But if you're going to write for the Washington Post, if you're going to write for the New York Times, why didn't you look into this guy's background? Why are we now dealing with the fact that we know, confirmed, this guy lied? I'll tell you why this is so damn important. For one, for the Washington Post, okay, and the other news outlets who falsely claimed he was a Vietnam vet, that's libel. And I'm not exaggerating. That is slander, defamation. That is libel. Okay, slander is spoken. But it's libel and defamation. You know why? As I stated in my other video, when they wrote that these kids were harassing a Vietnam veteran, that is a false statement of fact. Even if they were, let's say you got these kids literally harassing and spitting on somebody. If you claimed they were harassing and spitting on somebody, which is true, but that somebody was a Vietnam veteran, that's false. You falsely claimed they did something. Okay, plain and simple, which means they have opened themselves up to this libel. How did we get to this point, right? I worked for these companies. They have legal departments. How do they... you know what? I'm going to say it. These people need to all be fired. All of them. All of them. And I don't. I'm sort of picking on the Washington Post here. They're not the only ones, especially because last night the author of this did publish that Phillips said he was a Vietnam vet. But the point is, if you're working for the Washington Post and you are not as good as some random Twitter user, why are you employed by the Washington Post? It's a class issue at this point. I think these news outlets hire an ivory tower elite type of individual for the most part, upper middle class progressives who hold similar political views. But look, listen, I'll say it right now. To all of the outlets that got this wrong, when the evidence was on this guy's Facebook page, why didn't you fact check whether or not he was or wasn't a Vietnam veteran? They clearly don't have the competence to be journalists because they didn't do a background check on this guy to figure out who he was and what he was doing. They didn't even get a comment from the kids in the situation. They just took an apology from the diocese and said, there it is, it happened, and they all had egg on their face. We even now have an article from the Atlantic talking about how the media got all of this wrong. All of them got it wrong because none of them did any work. It's only going to get worse, right? They're not going to learn from their mistakes. They're so desperate to get this rage bait that there you go. But I'll tell you what, it's leading in one direction. Mass layoffs are being reported at BuzzFeed and Huffington Post. That video is going to be the crux of my main channel video at 4 p.m. So go to youtube.com/timcast. At 4 p.m., I'm going to be addressing BuzzFeed, Huffington Post, and other layoffs in the media and what the current state is. There's going to be a lot more commentary on this, so stick around, and I will see you then, youtube.com/timcast.